Well, the time is just headed to 8:59 a.m. We continue, and as part of our Juma Nasiha this morning, we normally call on our honorable, our respected ulama to join us on this particular segment of the show. And this morning, we are in the holiday season, and we know many people are traveling both locally and they will be traveling overseas as well. But the key issue is what is a Muslim's travel etiquette? And especially when you are on a plane, Salah. And these are questions that come up from time to time in terms of Salah and how do you perform Salah on the plane. And we're going across to join our honorable, our respected Imam at the in from Mitchell's Plain, Maulana Shafiq Nolan. Maulana, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jummah Mubarak to you and welcome.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh to yourself, brother Inayat, mashallah, and the beautiful listeners and viewers of Radio Salam Media, mashallah.
Yes, I mean, Jazakallah khairan so much, Maulana. And,
Shukran.
clearly we are inspired. It is the day of Jummah. Alhamdulillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala
Alhamdulillah.
has given us another opportunity to get closer to Him and to do justice to this beautiful day of Jummah. But, Maulana, just looking ahead at the time of the year where we find that many people are traveling for various reasons, whether they're going for Umrah, whether they're going on holiday, and people will be traveling in and out of the country. And the key issue is, as Muslims, even when we are on the road, when we are on the plane, we need to conduct ourselves as Muslims. And there are certain guidelines, there is certain etiquette when we are traveling.
Indeed so. Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillahi wa ba'd. Firstly, we thank and praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We send salutations on our master and leader Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa salim. Yes, indeed, alhamdulillah, the ummah is moving, Allahu Akbar. The ummah is traveling, alhamdulillah. And many are traveling, to the holy lands. Many are traveling, to overseas to visit some loved ones and friends. So alhamdulillah, we are on holiday. It's the holiday season. But of course, as we know that our salah and our identity as Muslimin cannot go on holiday. Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam reminds us and says, ittaqullah haythuma kunt, that fear Allah, so be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wherever you find yourself, and whatever location we find ourselves. We are Muslim and we cannot put that on hold because of the season. Allahu Akbar Kabira. Henceforth, Allah, when it comes specifically to our salah, and our salah is that particular component within our lives, that particular action within the life of a Muslim. It is not negotiable at any moment in time, subhanallah. And we might be excused from XYZ. However, when it comes to salah, the Muslim is not excused from that salah. May Allah Ta'ala grant us all to be from the muqimeen as-salah, those who establish the salah. Allah Rabbul Izzah reminds us in Surah An-Nisa, ayah number 103, where Allah Ta'ala speaks about the salah. Inna salata kanat ala al-mu'minina kitaban mawquta. That verily the salah, it is that prescribed amal upon the Muslim, upon the believer, kitaban mawquta, in a prescribed time. La ilaha illallah. In a prescribed particular time. We cannot make salah only when it suits us. We cannot make a salah only at our particular convenience. No, it has a specific time that it has to be executed and fulfilled. In fact, the Nabi Muhammad ﷺ was asked, ayyul amali afdal, or ayyul amali ahabba ila Allah, which action is most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? One would have thought perhaps, it is, the Nabi ﷺ would say Hajj, we would, or Umrah, or Sadaqah. No, the Nabi ﷺ says, as-salatu ala waqtiha. It is performing that prayer, performing the salah in its prescribed time. La ilaha illallah. He then asked, the Sahabi then asked, what then? He then said, birrul walidain, to be cordial, to be kind, to be generous, to be beautiful, towards and respectful towards the parents. And then after that, the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, jihad fi sabilillah. However, here we are looking at the first response of the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, salah in its time. So we find ourselves on a plane, we find ourselves on a bus. Some individuals, traveling, nationally, to some particular location, and we find ourselves on a Greyhound bus or a Intercape bus or on a train, for that matter. or a taxi, or a particular taxi. But now specifically we're looking at the plane also, because that is the mode of transport for many of our communities who are traveling abroad and so on and so forth. And some spend 20 hours, 21 hours, 18 hours, 15 hours on a plane. And however, when it comes to the awqat and to the salah, we've got no other alternative except to pray and make our salah on that particular, on the plane, or the luxury cruise line, or a train, and so on and so forth. So we need to mention that the scholars and the ulama of the madhahib, the madhahib al-arba'a, the four schools of thought, they are unanimous. They are unanimous, and they all say that لا تجوز صلاة الفريضة على الدابة أو الراحلة إلا للضرورة, that it is not permissible to perform any fard salah, any fard and compulsory prayer, on a mode of transport, إلا للضرورة. It is not permissible to do it except if there is a darura, a necessity, if there is a valid excuse to do so. So the valid excuse that we would have, to perform our fard salah on a particular on the plane or the train or the ship or something, it is that we would fear that the time will lapse, meaning the waqt. So it is now the time of for example, zuhur. It is now the time of zuhur, and those who join the salah, now they can join it with the salah of asr. But now, by the time we would be landing and the time we will be docking, won't allow for us to make the salah, because we will be docking after the waqt, and the waqt would be out. So then that is the darura, that is the need and the necessity to fulfill and to perform that particular salah on the plane. How do we perform the salah on the plane? So we reflect quickly over a hadith of Imran ibn Hussein radiallahu anhu wa arda. Now the scholars, they base their jurisprudence on this particular hadith. It is that he came to the Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In fact, he said, "Kanat bi bawasir." I had some medical condition, piles and so on, and it was very severe. And I came to the Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, wa sa'altuhu an salah. I inquired, by the Rasul with regards to how would I perform the salah, because this is clearly an inconvenience. The Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam instructed. He says, "Salli qa'ima," that you pray while standing. Pray while standing. So we know that qiyam and standing in prayer is an integral component, a very, very fundamental and integral component of the salah. So stand. وَإِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ, if you are unable to stand, whether it is a medical condition or the circumstance, and you are unable to stand, فَصَلِّ قَائِمًا, then you pray while sitting. You pray while sitting. وَإِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ, and if you are even unable to sit, فَصَلِّ عَلَى جَنْبٍ, then make your salah while relaxing and laying on your side if you are unable. So there we can see no excuse for not performing the salah. So the scholars, they base their particular jurisprudence on this hadith, and they say, if you find yourself in a plane or a train or any means of transportation, and you are unable to perform your salah correctly while standing and so on and so forth, and completing the sujood and completing the ruku, which, by the way, they are all integral and fundamental components of the salah, then you make your salah according to the best of your ability. Stand to the best of your ability, and also make sujood and ruku to the best of your ability. Subhanallah. Another hadith popped to mind, and that is specifically when the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was asked about the salah on a ship, and we based also our fiqh on this. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "Salli qa'iman illa an takhafar gharqa." Pray while standing, except if you find yourself fearing that it would capsize or so on and so forth. So, my dear beloved brothers and wonderful sisters, mashallah, we sometimes find ourselves on the plane, and if it is conducive, if it is possible for us to pray in a location, if there is a provision made for us to go and pray, or a specific portion or part in the plane, khalas, then we make our salah. Now the other aspect, and that is performing salah towards qibla. Yes, So the scholars mention at the time when you start your salah, make sure that we face qibla. Make sure that we face qibla using our devices and compasses and so on. We find qibla. Some planes, alhamdulillah, they have these particular things available. So we stand on in that particular direction, and then we face that way. And regardless afterwards, if the plane move our direction, خلاص فإنما تولوا فثم وجه الله. Wherever we face, we will get the face of Allah. We'll get the countenance of the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mashallah. And by doing so, we would have fulfilled this obligation of salah in its prescribed time. So the key word, to the best of our ability, mashallah. Allah Ta'ala accept from one and all. I mean,
I mean, just one question, Molana. We find
okay.
that, especially on the plane, we find that because of the limited space as well, and many people, and we've seen this over and over again, people just sit in their seats and perform salah.
Yes. Okay. So if it is that there is no other option, there is no other option to go and stand, because we need to first see if it's possible for us to stand. Sometimes it is limited space. It's a small plane. Khalas. That is at the best of our ability. The key word is here, فاتقوا الله فاتقوا الله ما استطعتم, that we need to fear Allah to the best of our ability. If that is the only possible way to perform and to do, khalas, then we perform and we do so. However, only if we know that by the time we're going to reach, we're going to land, and there won't be sufficient time to fulfill that salah in the waqt, then we do it. If we find that there might be some time when we have landed and I can perform the salah correctly as it ought to be executed, then we do so. If not, khalas, we do it while sitting, and that is to the best of our ability.
Yes, and Molana, I think, with technology nowadays, and especially when a person plans his trips, and even if it's plane travel, we know exactly in which direction we are traveling. And I'm sure that with a lot of homework that one's doing, that, at the time of Salah, this is going to be the time of Asr, this is the time of Asr is going to end, Maghrib is going to set in. What I'm saying is, you can actually plan yourself, and I'm sure that, a lot of information you can actually gather before you actually embark on this journey.
100% we can plan, because they give us an itinerary, and on the itinerary we would see exactly this. These are particular times, also bearing in mind the different time zones, if we're traveling abroad and so on and so forth. So we say, okay, that time I will be doing this, that time is my Maghrib and Isha. So by doing so, alhamdulillah, we would have an idea. And wallah, that's the most beautiful part of a Muslim, that wherever, however, we always put our ibadah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in front of us. And that would gain us, give us success, Allahu Akbar Kabira, and as well as safety, to being conscious of the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yes, indeed. And so as if we plan, we know exactly, okay, so we'll be facing that way. Alhamdulillah, that is how we establish the Qibla. Remember the Qibla, the key word for establishing Qibla, it is at-tahri. We need to inquire. Sometimes if our gadgets and so on and so forth is not fulfilling, then we need to inquire. Maybe call the hostess or someone and says, listen, can you perhaps tell us which way are we facing now? Where, how can I get? You need to inquire. Sometimes, if alhamdulillah, if it is an Arab airline, a Muslim airline, they would clearly tell us, okay, Qibla is this way, and so on and so forth. After inquiring, alhamdulillah, and getting some information, so we made some effort to find Qibla. We can't just haphazardly say, okay, I'll face anyway. No. Qibla is an important, one of the shurut, one of the preconditions of salah before we enter of salah. Likewise is tahara. We need to take into consideration as well, if we're going to perform salah on a plane or a certain location, people might be spilling alcohol and so on. So be conscious of this particular thing as well, that the location and everything, it needs to be tahir and it needs to be clean as well. So all of those particular components need to be, and requisites need to be fulfilled before we execute and we perform our salah.
Well, Malana, Jazakallah khairan so much for that. And I must say, it's been most absorbing. It's highly informative, very, very educational. Jazakallah khairan so much. Allah accept. Allah reward your efforts. And it's been an absolute pleasure having you part and parcel of the broadcast this morning with us here on Salam Media.
Shukran so very much. It was an absolute honor for me to be in your company. Jazakumullah ahsanul
Uh,
jaza.
Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Maulana Shafiq Nolan with us, yes, and wonderful nasiha, wonderful advice, and for Muslim travelers, and particularly looking at those of us that will be undertaking journeys on the plane, and as Maulana mentioned, looking at it at a bus, traveling by ship. These are all, in fact, wonderful advices that apply. The time is just headed for 9:14. We've got no news this morning, but we've got Hafiz Ibrahim Musa, the Palestine Information Network, with us this morning. We're talking about Benjamin Netanyahu claiming an agreement that was reached with the far right to form the government, the Israeli government. We're going to go for a break. We'll be back.